Hi there. Okay, so I decided to do kind of a spontaneous stream because I really need to work on these, and I figure I might as well chat while I'm working. I did not get the bottom of the second pair of stilt covers glued yesterday, as much as I planned to, but I figured I would do that today, and I also figured I would work on painting some of these cracks here because that all has to be done in acrylics by hand. I might try to do some spray paint. I actually found some spray paint today. I didn't buy it. I'm thinking of getting it though. That's an acrylic spray paint, and I haven't used it before. And so I might try that because I really like working with acrylics. I was also looking at the craft store for different sorts of glue because I mentioned that I was going to work on the dreads for the wig yesterday. Not work on them yesterday, but work on them soon. And because that hair is so beautiful and silky smooth, I'm trying to figure out how to keep it in dreads. And my original concept was like gnarled dreads. Because most of the ones that I'm seeing people make out there are really beautiful ones. They're very smooth and kind of silky looking. Well, not silky looking, but very kind of smooth dreads. And I was thinking for like a dryad type costume, gnarled ones, like looking like they have mud and branches and things like that might look cooler. But part of that was because I haven't done dreads before, so it was kind of an excuse for if they turned out really crappy. But we'll see. I'm going to try to test them out over the next couple of days in some different ways and see what I can get away with. I was thinking about the glue, the stuff that I used to glue the foam and the fabric together that didn't work great because it was tacky, but it didn't stick it really well. Although after that, Curly Swan was actually PMing me about a special kind of glue that's actually meant for gluing foam to foam. I don't know if it would have worked for fabric to foam, but the foam to foam stuff, it would have worked really, really well. So I learned something new. It was a little bit late, but I learned something new. But I was thinking maybe the tackiness of that would help me to twist and comb and keep the wig hair less silky so that I could get that kind of dread look to it. So I'm just going to try a ton of different things. I probably won't try a ton of different things on stream because it's going to be a lot of trial and error. So once I get a technique that I think is going to work, I'll show you guys. Because with that hair being heat resistant, the normal way of doing dreads isn't going to work, but I really love the look. I think it's really pretty. And so I want to figure out something that's going to work. And I don't want to just do all braids because it's not going to be the look that I'm going for. So yeah. So if I go for like gnarled dreads, it's possibly going to be partially because I don't have the skill to do proper ones. But it'll be like it was meant to be, right? Yes, exactly. Sure. So anyway, what I was doing yesterday, if you watched yesterday or if you've watched the one before this, you already know this, but I was taking, I've got better angles today, I think, supposedly. Okay, so I was taking this, the muslin that was glued down to the inside here and then stuck out. I glued it along the bottom of the silk cover here, and then I'm folding it back and gluing it this way, partially so that it looks neater so I don't have these ugly ragged edges, but partially so that I've got an extra layer on the bottom of the stilt cover that will hopefully protect some of that foam because that foam is a whole lot more delicate than the fabric, and I would prefer to not have it get all scuffed up and disgusting and gross because I put a lot of work into these. So I'm hoping that doubling up that fabric a little bit is going to help it. So I'm just giving it an extra layer. One of the problems I'm running into though is when I fold it, it's not wanting to stick in place unless I hold it in place to glue it. And trying to hold it in place to let it cool just takes a lot of time. My goal for today, I don't know if I'll get to my entire goal, but my goal for today is to finish gluing around the entire bottom of this silk cover and to hopefully at least get a good portion of the painting down inside these cracks here. I got a dark brown. I was afraid that I was originally going to do black, and I was afraid that black was just going to be too dark. So I got the darkest brown I could. It's actually not technically brown. It's called raw umber. And I'm hoping that that will be a really nice dark sort of color. That's what I'm using right there for inside those cracks. And I've got a couple of different brushes I'm going to try. In this case, I didn't test this ahead of time. I'm kind of learning as I go on stream with the paint. So I got a big old foam brush like this that I'm going to try using to get in those cracks. I don't know how well it will work. Luckily, if it hits this top part here, that's okay because I'm going to paint that later. And I also got another brush that's a nice, like, big brush that's shedding a lot of bristles. So we will see how well this works. Luckily, it's a tree, and so there can be little bits of stuff on it. Wow. Okay. And I've got some water. I'm hoping if I thin out that acrylic a little bit, that will help it to kind of fill up those cracks. So you will be watching the experimental learning process here, because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm figuring it out as I go. And then I'm finding out after I do this about tools that would have made my job a little bit easier. Like checking to make sure that my wig is not heat resistant before I buy it. But I looked afterwards at the place that I got the wigs, and I could not find a non-heat resistant wig that had all those colors in it. And I really want to try to get all those colors, and I probably could have found it in individual pieces, maybe a red and an orange. I'm not sure if they would have been that vibrant, but I would have also been spending a lot more money. And I am trying to do this as cost effectively as possible. Yeah, the big giant pieces of polyfoam, the place that I went to has a 40% off coupon on one item. So I waited and I got one item that day, and so that I could get the $30 bag of polyfoam for $15, or no, that would be 50% off, but let me see. 30 times 6, 3 times 6 is 18, so I got it for $18, but still better than 30. Yeah, so I'm trying to save money where I can on this because these things get expensive. Stilt costumes in general can be really expensive because of the amount of fabric that you need just to make the stilt covers. If you're getting fabric that's, I don't know, $10 a yard or so, you're getting so many yards of fabric just to make the stilt cover, because you want to make them kind of big and flowy. They just look better that way, unless there's a reason to have them very narrow. I was walking around yesterday and my fingers were just sore from dealing with all the hot glue. Luckily they weren't burned or blistering or anything. They were just, I used a lot of hot glue yesterday. Wow, that does not want to stay. So anyway, I got a call today about a potential stilt thing with a very cool fantasy-based costume, but not something I would need to be building. Something somebody else is building, but it sounds like a lot of fun. So I love the fantasy-based stilt costumes. They're just fun, different, and unique, and they allow more opportunity for creative expression sometimes because you can kind of do your own interpretation of them. I think I said yesterday that I ordered a corset, just a really basic brown satiny looking thing that I can put all sorts of stuff on top of. And it's not here today. It should be here tomorrow or the next day. Ow! I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing. So, but I'm looking forward to that. Hot. So anyway, oof. When I don't concentrate and I talk, I keep burning myself. But then when I just sit here and concentrate, it's not quite as interesting because there's not a lot to see right now since the back of it is facing towards me. I have to put this over my shoulder. But this part has to be done because I really don't want these to fall apart the first time I wear them, especially if I wear them outside. I want to be able to wear them outside because that would look really cool, like for a Ren fair to be able to walk around outside, but I also don't want them ruined the first time I walk in them, because that would suck. Well, this does not want to stick here. Hang on a minute. This is the pair of stilt covers that I actually had on the pair of stilts yesterday that I had over there. So today I pulled them off because I finished this process on the other pair of stilt covers that I was showing you yesterday. I don't remember what you did refer to because that was like a minute ago. So, hi Plaster Dragon! How are you? I have to remember to keep track of the chat on my phone today because I can type back and forth a lot more easily there. I'm going to borrow, my mom has one of those wig heads that you can attach to a table. I don't know if you guys have seen them before, but they're really, really awesome. And she has one that she uses for forming her wigs, and I'm going to try to borrow that because I think it's going to be way easier to work with these wig pieces on that. When I was watching videos on people making dreads, most of the people, now granted, most of them weren't making them with existing wigs. They were getting the like just long pieces of hair, like they're super, super long, and then they wrap them around their toe and then pull on one side and make one on one side and make one on the other side, and then kind of weave it into the wig. But I can't really do that when it's already a wig piece. And I thought about cutting it apart too. Oh, about the corset, yes. I thought about cutting it apart too, but I would rather, if I don't have to cut the wig apart, I would rather not do that. Because like so many things, once you cut it apart, you cannot put it back together. And I'm thinking I have a better chance at it all holding together in one piece if I leave it in wig form and then kind of glue that wig piece to the helmet piece once that's all cut out that I have. And that way it's all just one thing. Ooh, I found something else today. While this is drying, I can show you. I found some string that's waxed cord that's like a green. I'm hoping I can weave that. I'll show you right there. Yay. I'm hoping that I can weave that into the wig too, and that might hold if the dreads aren't holding in place properly. I can kind of tie them in, and that might help. Honestly, the thing that I was most worried about at the beginning of this process was the stilt covers, because since I hadn't made something like this before, I hadn't made stilt covers out of polyfoam, I wasn't quite sure how it was going to work or how I was going to do it. And now that I know I've got that part down and I know where I'm going and I know the next steps that have to be done with this, I feel pretty confident about that. My next thing that I'm stressing about, because it's a new skill for me, is doing that wig, because I think it has the potential to look really, really cool. I know what I'm picturing in my head, but I'm not quite sure how to accomplish it. I also got some glue, some just Elmer's water-based glue, because that's something else I can experiment with, seeing if that will kind of hold the twists and stuff in place. Hi, Curly Swan! How are you? But the problem is, because I'm working with a wig that I already bought that's supposed to be my final wig, I can only experiment so much because I don't want to ruin it. So I'm going to have to start with the bottom pieces of the wig. And that way, if I mess up and it looks terrible, it's at least on the bottom underneath. So we'll see. Yeah, I'm debating. The reason I got the orange and yellow and red was because going for autumn dryad, I wanted to, thinking in terms of how a tree looks, I wanted to make sure that those reds and the yellows, that the leafy colors were on top, were on my head. And I didn't want to go cutesy. I didn't want to go too pretty with this dryad, which is why I was picturing the gnarled dreads, just chunky, like pieces sticking out and like vines coming off of it and that sort of thing. And I was thinking, you know, bits of the look of like mud in there, like kind of yucky, muddy kind of look. But I don't know. I might go for nice looking if I can get away with it, if I can make it work, if I can find the skill to do that. And I can always make them look rougher afterwards, or they may just naturally look rougher because I may be really bad at doing this. But I feel like if I make them nice, I can always make them look rougher. If I make them look rough and then I decide later that they should look nice and pretty, I can't go back. So I will try not to make you cry today. Apparently I made Curly Swan cry. I was talking about her. I'm not going to make you cry. I was talking about her wonderful, wonderful mama yesterday, who introduced me to the world of, literally to the world of Warcraft. And she was an absolutely spectacular, amazing person. And if I keep talking about her, I'm going to make you cry again, so I'm going to have to stop because I was going to start talking about genealogy and all sorts of things. Anyway. So yesterday when I was doing this, I got to this part over here. Oh my gosh, these are so big and bulky. I got to this part over here and I tried gluing everything down. There's this, you can see right, you can see right here, there's kind of all this excess cloth. And I decided rather than taking 4 seconds to trim it, I would just glue it all down. And it would have been much better to just take 4 seconds to trim it. So I'm going to do that with this particular silk cover. Save myself a little bit of time. But it does look a whole lot nicer when I glue these raw edges down. Not that anybody's going to be looking at the inside of my silk covers, hopefully. But I'll know, and that's what's important, right? I was looking back at the reference pictures I had the other day because I'm still kind of trying to think about what I want to do with that corset. I still haven't gotten fabric to cover it with. One of these days I want to go over to a fabric store. And I've been looking online at different kinds of fabric, and it's so hard to tell when you see it online. I mean, you can see what it looks like sort of, but you can't feel the texture. I feel like you can't really see it unless you can touch it, unless you can see what it's actually like. And so even though I'm kind of inclined to order raw silk or bark skin fabric or something like that because it's going to have a really good texture, if I can't see it and touch it beforehand, I'm worried that I'm going to spend all this money and it just not be right. So I think I might just break down and go to a fabric store where I can actually see and touch and, I don't know, look at the fabric in person, because I want the fabric to be right and I don't want to have to, it's hard to return fabric because once they've cut it, they can't do a lot with it. And yeah, and I want to see what I'm working with, because I realize that whatever I incorporate into the bodice, into the corset piece, I probably also have to somehow incorporate into the stilt covers so that it matches, because if not, they're both going to have really, really different looks. And I will probably also have to incorporate the same fabric into whatever kind of a headpiece I create. Because I don't want it to look like 3 separate costumes that don't integrate. I want it to look like they all belong together. So, and I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to incorporate that fabric into the silk cover since I've done all of this work cutting the polyfoam. It might be that I just have to cut some strips. I mean, it'd be great if I happen to get a fabric that just looks great with whatever I've painted and it all goes together like it's meant to be and I don't have to do any of that. But I'm trying to keep in mind that I need to get enough fabric so that if I need to incorporate it into the stilt covers, I can, to kind of integrate it. Hot. Obviously hot glue is hot, oh my goodness. at some point. I feel like I'm just going to knock this thing out of the way, flipping these things around. I was trying to think about the best way to travel with these. I was looking up boxes and various sorts of things that you can pack something this large into, because I can't just, normally with cloth silk covers, I can just fold them down and stick them in a suitcase or something like that. These, I don't think are going to stick into a suitcase. They're just far too large. I have a big old garment bag, like for dresses and things. And I was thinking the other day that maybe, I don't know, I think they're about the length of a, like an evening gown type thing. So I might be able to get away with a garment bag. I could probably just get out one of my garment bags and measure it. That would be smart. But these are also going to be a little bit shorter because right now they're far too long. I could raise my stilts to match them, but I'd have to raise them really high, which I don't really have a problem with as far as walking goes, but I do have a problem with as far as interacting goes. I want them short enough that I can still interact with people, especially if I'm going to a place with kids. Because stilt walkers, there are some kids that just think it's the coolest thing ever, and there are some kids who are really intimidated by it. And generally I find, in most cases, unless they're really young, if I can kind of get down to their level and, you know, be able to hold their hand or take a picture with them or be a little silly, or I can scare them or unscare them a little bit. I can make them a little bit more comfortable. But I can't do that if I'm so tall that I can't get closer on their level. If I can't actually interact by reaching out a hand or something, it's not going to help. And so I don't want to be so tall that I'm completely intimidating. It's a fine line. Okay, I think I'm about done with gluing around the edges here. That last little bit. Got some stringies hanging off. Am I working on the body? Well, these are the legs. I was just saying that I've got the corset coming in the mail. It's supposed to be here tomorrow, hopefully, if I'm lucky, at the very latest by the next day. And then I'm working with that. I'm going to be gluing fabric on that and probably sewing, well, gluing or sewing or doing whatever I need to do. Until I see it, it's really hard to tell, because when you look at a picture online, you never quite know what you're going to get and how it's going to fit and what sorts of alterations you're going to need to make, and how it's going to look, especially because, you know, for corsets, they range in price anywhere from $20 to $60 to $80, and I was not going to spend $60 or $80 on a corset that I was going to cover with a bunch of stuff and sew on top of. So I went a little bit lower end. I went more along the lines of $20, which sometimes can bite you. So if it's not quite working, I mean, I can always fix it a little bit. They also didn't have the exact size that I was looking for, so I had to go a little bit bigger. So it might have to be taken in a bit, or it might, a lot of them are adjustable and it looks like it might adjust. We'll see. I really hope it works. Trying to get some of these little edges that didn't quite glue down well. Okay, so that, here I'll just show you what it looks like. Can you see it there? Okay, so that is all glued around. It looks a whole lot neater than it did before. There we go. I will let that dry a bit. Last night I was streaming for Something Wicked, and over on this channel, Plaster Dragon, and in the back there was this giant white thing. I couldn't figure out what it was, and I suddenly realized that it was one of the silk covers, because I'm in the same room to do that. I'm just over on that side of the room. So I had this whole setup in the background of this other show. This office has kind of been taken over right now by streaming things. All right, so I'm going to put that away because I'm not going to work on that now. I will put the wig away because I'm not going to work on that now. And this is the completely experimental part, because I want to get some of this painting done. So things that need to be done on these still. Zippers needs to be put in. And I actually have the zippers I need right here. And so that zipper is actually going to go, yeah, okay. So that zipper is actually going to go, can you see it there? On the inside so that it pulls it together from the inside. So I'll have to zip it like from the inside of my leg. My hope is that when it zips together, can you see? Okay, so down here, down at the base, it's all glued together and it's flush. Here, it's not going to be flush because it's not going to be able to be glued together. But my hope is that even if it's open a little bit as I walk, the opening between the two pieces of, there it is, between the two pieces of foam as they split won't be hopefully too much bigger than these openings here. So it won't look weird. At least that's the goal. But I know I'm going to have to cut these down at least a little bit. I'm going to have to come down to probably at least here or so. So I don't really want to install the zipper until I have them cut to their final size. But because I don't really have the space right now to put my stilts on and measure exactly where they need to be, and I kind of need a second person in order to do that, I'm just going to go ahead and start painting today. And I'll just be painting some bits at the top here that will eventually be cut off. But I would rather get some of that process done, get some of that work done, because I need to move forward with this. I need to get these stilt covers a little bit closer to being done. So, and I am just losing bits of muslin and threads all over the place. There we go. Okay, so I got some paint. I'm going to work on the back first because better to, if I'm going to mess this up, better to mess up the back than to mess up the front. I've got a container. I've got some water if I need it. I have a brush. I don't know which brush is going to work better. I'm thinking I'm going to need to, ooh, that's a gross sound. I don't know if you heard that or not. I'm thinking I'm going to need to put a little bit of water in it just to thin it out some. I don't know. We'll figure this out as it goes. I also don't want to use up as much. I'm hoping if I thin it, the paint will also go further. Ooh, yay. That's actually absorbing better than I thought it would. Yeah, a little bit of water helps. Yeah, because I'm having to kind of, here, can you see this, right? Where's my hand? Okay, so I'm having to kind of pull it open as I paint, because as I move around, it's going to pull open on its own. That's one of the reasons I couldn't use spray paint. Or I guess I could, but it would take a while. Because I don't want to see little bits of white foam as I move around. This is a really gross color. I mean, it's going to be perfect for what I need. But the color looks like poop. When I spray the top of it, the spray won't go down into the cracks. I may end up hand painting these just because I'm a little bit of a perfectionist with stuff like this. It doesn't look like it because I'm getting paint everywhere, but I also know that that I'm going over the top on the outside parts. And so I may try with the spray paint spraying it and making sure it doesn't go down into the cracks too much. But if it's going down into the cracks too much, then I'm just going to have to paint the outside edges, which will take maybe longer, but oh well. I just want a darker color in the cracks down in the grooves and a lighter color on top, because I think it's going to give it a more three-dimensional look. One of my concerns was from a distance, like up close, you can see all of the detail work. But from a distance, I was really worried that you're just not going to see the detail work as much. And unless I use color to help do that, it's just all going to blend into just one brown cylinder, and I don't want it to do that. So, wow. This is taking a lot more paint than I thought. Hopefully I will have enough with one tube, but I'm starting to think already that I may end up needing a couple more tubes of paint. Yeah, this is an acrylic paint. This is the cheapest acrylic paint that I could buy at the craft store, because boy, acrylic can be kind of expensive. This wasn't too bad. This was for a 18 mil tube. It was like $5. But I used my handy dandy 40% off coupon on this too. So it was not $5. It was, let's see, 5 times 6, it was $3. So, but I'm already starting to think that I may end up needing multiple tubes of this. By the time, if I end up hand painting the outer, like these parts here, I'll have to get a better, like a more detailed brush. But I got this big chunky soft brush for the inner parts, because where I trimmed the foam, it's not smooth at all. It's very rough in edges. So I'm really having to mess with it, like really kind of dig in there to try to get all the edges. So, but this has the potential to look really pretty. I hope it does. So, I also wasn't quite sure. I've got all these little knots of wood, and I started off with the knots of wood when I was carving them out. I was carving lots and lots of extra circles, layers into them, and it was just taking frickin' forever. And so I changed them, and you can't see it here. Oh, I changed them to where I took out, can you see that there? I don't know if you can even see it on camera, but I took out the whole chunky section in the middle and just made it more of an indentation. Because my thought was, if I'm painting in the indentations, that will make the knot of the wood much, much darker, and it'll make it stand out more and give it more of a natural wood look. But like I said, I've never done this before, so that could work out great, or it could not. I don't know. We'll find out. But I'm already going to need more paint in just a minute. So this brush is really helping to get in there and get all those parts, but foam absorbs paint, boy. And trying to get all the parts covered is a little bit more challenging than I thought it was going to be. Okay, let's get some more paint in there. Use a wider brush. Well, this brush is about, I have a big foam brush that I'm going to try too. We'll see how it works. But this brush is a little wider than the cracks. It's just that as I'm brushing, it doesn't quite get everything. But I might try the foam brush in a second. That foam brush is so wide though that I'm afraid I'm going to end up getting too much of the exterior. I don't want to waste paint basically by getting too much of the exterior. Because I know I can paint over it in a lighter brown. I'm not as worried about getting paint on the outside parts. I just don't want to paint any more of the outside parts than I have to, because that's paint that I don't really need to use. But now that I'm on a roll with this brush, I kind of don't want to try the other one, but the other one might be better. I don't know. We'll see. I'll get this line done and then I'll try the foam brush. We'll see what works. Like I said, everything else I've done so far, I've done, like I've experimented with off stream to see what worked best before I went on stream. This is the first time that I've done, I think I'm going to paint the cracks and see what happens. And we'll try this color and we'll try this brush and we'll try some water and figure it out as we go. So I did not try any of this beforehand. I mean, luckily it seems to be working well so far. Fingers crossed, knock on wood. But I'm already seeing that this is going to be a multi-day process. This is going to be like foam cutting, where I will stream some of it and I will probably not stream a good portion of it too, because I'm not sure if you want to watch me paint in between the cracks of foam for 4 days. But it means that I will probably be working on this at the same time that I'm working on some other aspects of the costume. Because if I just go off stream for the next 4 days while I paint this thing, then you're going to wonder where I am if I'm lost. Okay, I'm going to try this foam brush for a second. This one's working okay, but who knows? I could try this foam brush and go, wow, this works so much better. Why didn't I start with this? Nope. Well, I don't know. Maybe it really gets a lot more on the sides. You can even see where I am. Where's my hand? Here's my hand. Okay. Yeah, well, okay. Advantages and disadvantages is getting more on the outside edges, which I don't love. But it is getting kind of into those cracks a little bit better, which is kind of the point of the whole endeavor. Okay, so it wastes a little bit more paint and I get more on the outsides, but it does fill it a little bit more completely. We'll try this for a little while. We'll see how it goes. I mean, technically it's foam on foam. Maybe there's an advantage to painting foam with foam. So I can only do this for, I need to keep an eye on the time. I can only do this for about an hour today. I know, I can't wait to see it either. Wider brush and use it sideways so it covers more space. I can't really use it sideways right now because it doesn't fit in the cracks if I go sideways. But I can twist it as I go, which I'm doing. But I can't really turn it all the way around. But yeah, I've got a little one that has to be taken to a class a little bit later, and then I've got streaming tonight. If you haven't heard of Fiasco, if you like RPGs, Fiasco is a really, really fun one. It is, come on. It is an RPG, and most of you probably know this, but RPGs are role-playing games. But it's creating characters. It's kind of an actor's dream. I love it. It's creating characters based on die rolls. So basically they have play sets. Bully Pulpit Games has different play sets that give you a premise. And the premise might be... I don't know, what are some of the really cool ones we've done? Like Black Hole, it's a spaceship in the middle of space and a crew has got to get away from an exploding star or something along those lines. And then there's a table, and for the table there are choices of relationships between people, some more extreme than others. So it could be brother-sister, it could be cousins, that sort of thing. It could be something along the lines of friend who was betrayed by the other person over something terrible or something like that. Anyway, so you roll a bunch of dice. You roll 16 six-sided dice. And based on the ones you roll, it limits your choices out of this table. And so you pick your relationships between your 4 different characters. It's generally played by 4 people. It can be played by less, and we've gotten away with more by 1 or 2, but not much more than that because then the game takes forever. And yeah, I'm going through a lot of paint. So anyway, you pick a relationship between each of the players, and then you pick other things that they have in common. So there's one other aspect that these people have in common. So it might be that they both have a common need, a need to steal the like in Black Hole, I can't remember what the different choices were, but to steal some sort of a proton gun or something like that, or some other sort of need to get out of this before the whole thing blows up or whatever. And a couple of the characters will have an object in common. It could be any sort of object. It could be something like an android that only half works or something like that. And then a location. And so there are lots of different choices for locations. And so once you establish these kind of basic character things that they have in common, you kind of come up with backgrounds for your characters, and then you launch into your story. And the story takes place in 2 acts. Each act is every person in the group of 4 gets 2 chances to create a scene. It goes around the circle twice. And the person decides what their scene is and what their goal is between them and whatever character they happen to do their scene with. And you're basically telling a story. It's group storytelling. And for those of you who really like that sort of thing, it's amazing. It's creating a little movie or a little play that generally goes horribly wrong. And that's kind of the goal, and that's what makes it beautiful and fun and sometimes silly. And yeah, it's a group story. And we do this on this particular channel every Wednesday night. And we've had some really amazing stories. But it's not something that I've only done through this channel. I have friends that we used to get together quite often to play a game of Fiasco. If you check it out, it's online. Bully Pulpit Games is the group that puts them out. And they have a ton of playsets. I mean, they've got vampire-based ones. They've got space, and the one tonight is martial arts-based. It's called Fist City. And so here on Plaster Dragon, every week we get a cast together of people who are interested in it and want to play. And we tell a story together. And sometimes, well, there's always an audience to watch. Sometimes it's a larger audience, sometimes it's a smaller audience, but in the end, it's not even really about, like, it's awesome that there are other people that want to watch that story and watch it unfold. But we're really there because we love to tell stories, and that's just kind of what we do. For people who like RPGs like Dungeons and Dragons and things like that, this is a little one-off story where you don't have to be limited by worrying if your character is going to live or die at the end, because if something horrible happens to your character, it can be really great for story. In fact, sometimes it's even better for story when horrible things happen to your character. And so sometimes there's a beauty to these little like one-shot stories where if your character dies, sometimes it's even better for the story and more fun, and you don't have to worry as much about terrible things happening. You just go with the story and make it entertaining and fun. So yeah, so that is tonight, but it means that I'm a little limited on my time today so that I can get all of the things prepped for that. So, and what am I missing? I am burning coffee, airing out my house. Oh no! Burned coffee. I love the smell of coffee. I'm not a fan of the taste of coffee. I'm learning to be, because I am quite often in desperate need of caffeine, and I'm trying to cut down on the sugary drinks. So if I want caffeine in a non-sugary form, I'm also trying to cut down on the artificial sweeteners. I don't really do artificial sweeteners, but the one exception is caffeinated, not like Pepsi, like like sodas with caffeine, but sometimes those water flavor additives that have caffeine and that also have artificial sweeteners, because I'm finding that it's harder to find. Once in a while I get them, but it's harder to find caffeinated water additives that don't have artificial sweeteners in them. So that's my one artificial sweetener compromise is those sorts of beverages. But what I've been trying to do is get myself used to just drinking coffee and not even putting a lot of sweetener in it, just drinking black coffee, because I figure if I don't really like the taste anyway, I might as well make the coffee, let it get cold, and down it as fast as possible, since the whole point is the caffeine anyway. Oh my gosh, I am going to need so much paint to do this. I might have to switch back over to the brush because the foam is covering it a little bit better, but my goodness, it is absorbing a lot of paint. Because the fact that that's all I have done, and I've gone through a lot of paint already, and I don't really want to have to buy 20 tubes of paint to get this done. Thank you so much, Plaster Dragon. I didn't even see what was said, but I appreciate the fact that you were watching my back. It is unfortunate that there are people out there that really enjoy being unkind to other people. I guess in the guise of, or with the advantage of seeming anonymity. I'm on this amazing Discord channel called Twitch Kittens that is just this like super supportive group of people that help people who are streaming and will answer questions if you get a little bit lost in trying to figure out what what you're doing, like the technical side of things and some of the just the practical sides of things. And they kind of go out and support small streamers that are just finding their feet, and we'll raid channels together and that sort of thing. And it's just this amazing group of people, and a lot of them are, you know, there are constantly stories on there. There's little channels kind of devoted to keeping an eye out for each other on and supporting each other, and people who get on channels and they troll and they just say unkind things and do unkind things. And it's so sad out there that there's this amazing community of artists and gamers and people all working together, and there's always going to be people who just aren't supportive of that, which I guess is the world sometimes. But I like to believe there are more good people out there. So, but the whole point of that is thanks, Plaster Dragon, for watching my back. Oh my goodness. So when I first started this today, I thought, hey, you know what? I'll do this for about an hour. I bet I'll be able to get one of the stilt covers done. I can get the other one done maybe off stream or a different day on stream. And I am now looking at this and going, wow, this is going to be a much longer process than I anticipated. I'm going to need to go buy a craft store and buy a lot more paint. But that's okay, because I am going to tell myself that it's all going to be worth it in the end, because these are going to look so amazingly cool. I'm also realizing, because as I move this foam around, after painting an entire layer, I'm still seeing little white spots that open up on the foam. Got my hands, look at that. You see it up close. Blah, it's all like, Um, so I'm wondering how much I'm going to have to repaint in the end just to kind of fill in all the cracks and crevices, because I'm still seeing places that I missed. But some of that will get filled in with spray paint later. I'm sorry that you are having to deal with an unpleasant person too, Curly Swan. That stinks. So anyway, yeah, it's amazing how much faster time goes here, because I thought, you know what, I'll just do this for about an hour. I feel like I've been here for 20 minutes, and I'm looking over at the time and going, it's already been 50 minutes, which is a lot. And I already need to refill more paint. Starting to wonder if maybe acrylic wasn't the way to go, because acrylic is so much more expensive than others. But the thing is, tempera is just too thin. Tempera is not going to work. Acrylic is... Bye, Curly Swan. I'll see you later. Thank you for joining me. And I like acrylic too because it dries flexibly. It's a plastic paint. And so since these are foam, and since they need to be able to move around, I need a good flexible sort of paint. So I really feel like acrylic is my best bet here. But my goodness, it's also a thicker paint, so I know I'm going to get better coverage with it. Tempera is just going to flake off. Tempera is just a powder-based paint. It's not. It's good for big projects that are short-term projects. It's great for painting stuff at, like, for school projects for kids. But I just don't think it's realistic for this. I think I'm just stuck with needing to do acrylic. So it is nice to be able to see the lines of this again, though. I had drawn all of these lines, and then I carved it and cut it out, and it was all white. You couldn't see the lines of the trunk anymore. So at least I'm back, even though it looks messy, at least I'm back to the point where you can kind of see the lines again. Plus, if I end up having to hand paint this, I know I'm going to have to buy so much more acrylic because I have some leftover colors of various colors of brown spray paint that I had planned to use, but I need multiple browns because in order to get the look and the kind of texture, I have to have multiple brown colors. And so that means if I end up hand painting this whole thing using acrylics, I'm going to have to buy a lot of brown spray paint. Oh, I was going to possibly texturize this before I painted it. Oh, I totally forgot. You know what? That's okay because it's very texturized on the inside. And I'll be texturizing with paint. And honestly, if I had roughened up the entire outside, it would require even more paint coverage. So in the end, I think that this is better if I'm not going to use an entire ridiculously large amount of paint. What I need to remember to do next time though, is put down a towel because I'm going to have to clean this table afterwards. And I do not want to have to spend an hour cleaning the table every time I do this because I don't want the acrylics to dry on this table. Especially since this table isn't mine. Sorry, Plaster Dragon. I will clean it up. I have a little table like this, but it's really hard to maneuver the stilt covers around a little table, so this big one is working way, way better. But it's a borrowed table. I'm also trying to keep this from running into my clothes too much because acrylic does not wash out of clothes. I think I might just have to put one of those big plastic tablecloths on this. Meaning I need to go out and get a big plastic tablecloth because I don't think I have one. Oof. Wow. Sure doesn't seem like very much is done. We'll do one more. Oh, come on. Yeah, I'm already getting towards the bottom of this container. That's insane. Wow. Okay, I may need to come up with a backup plan. Starting to wonder if getting a big, like a 5-gallon tub of some sort of a paint, even an oil base, might work. Because I never anticipated that I would be going through paint this quickly with this project. Go to a, of course it won't quite match, but if I get something dark, if I bring the bottle with me and try to find something that color matches a bit, that might work. That's why I started on the back. Yeah, because this is just a lot. I'm even thinking if I use spray paint outside and just pull it apart as I spray, it might coat it better and use less paint. I might just have to experiment with this over the next couple of days. See what I can do. Because I'm starting to think that hand painting all of these cracks and crevices might not be the most cost-effective way to do this. This makes gross sounds. All right, let's get a little bit more done. At least get the parts that I started filled in. In all these cracks and crevices. First couple of days I had all these stories that I told. And I got distracted talking about what I'm doing. If you have questions, feel free to ask questions. If you found us on YouTube, because it seems like more people are finding us on YouTube right now, this is done live at a Twitch channel called The Plastered Dragon. And if you just go to, oh gosh, Twitch TV /The Plastered Dragon, I'll put it up on the Discord. Unless the Plastered Dragon's around, he can put it up on our Discord too. But or not on our Discord, I'm sorry, on the screen here, and that way you'll see it. But that's where you can find me and a whole bunch of us who like RPGs and all sorts of things like that. But if you find us and you click that little heart to follow us, it should notify you when our stuff is going up and when Cali's Corner is going up. And that way you can talk to me live and you can ask questions and things like that, because I'm going to be doing this probably over the next month and a half or so. We'll see. It depends. If the painting takes as long as it's painting now for the next, I don't know, 7, 8, 10, 12 months. I think about this sort of thing, and I think about people who do this sort of thing for movies. like professionally, where it's like, hey, here's how you're going to make this tree costume, and now we need 47 of them. Or it's just this sort of grunt work, but it's not just for one costume, it's for a ton of costumes. And all these amazingly artistically talented people who are doing all of these beautiful things, but really at some point it just turns into a whole lot of just grunt work, because once the creative process is done and you know how you're doing it, then it's just getting the work done, just the repetition of it. Just time consuming. Watching people do things like armor, like plate mail and things like that, and just the amount of time it takes. And, you know, it's this beautiful work when they're done, and it's just grueling. Just takes forever. Who's your favorite voice actor that lives in Groveland, Florida? What? My favorite voice actor? That's a no-brainer. I mean, because he lives in Groveland, Florida, that's very specific. I mean, it's a good thing he didn't ask about Orlando, right? What? You mean Drunk Dragon? He's my favorite voice actor that lives in Groveland, Florida. Hi. He's not here right now. He's off doing amazing voice acting sorts of things. Thank you for coming and checking in with me, Drunk Dragon. I'm assuming you're on break right now. And I am about to be finished with this very soon. I'm going to get to the end of this bit of paint here. It's hard to stop because I go, let me get to the end of this paint before I put some more in. But I know I'm so close to the bottom of that paint tube that part of me goes, well, let me just get to the end of the paint tube because I'm so close. But I also know it's going to be so discouraging because I'm not going to get more than one line done with the rest of that paint tube. And I'm afraid to count, because if I count how many actual lines I've done with one paint tube and then count how many actual lines I have to do and then do the math on how many paint tubes I have to buy, it's just going to be discouraging. So I'm a little afraid to do that. So maybe I shouldn't finish the paint tube because I've already accepted the fact that I'm going to have to find another solution. With some other paint because this is ridiculous. And it looks messy right now, but I knew it was going to look messy before it looked great, because trying to get down in all those cracks of foam is just a messy process. Well, I guess I'm just going to be sitting in here and I guess I'm just going to let this dry for a while and clean up this table. Yeah, I guess I'm going to stopping point for today. I've got a very long process ahead of me. I'm going to finish painting these stilt covers. I will probably be on stream for a little bit in order to paint these because I might as well. But at some point, hopefully in the next few days, I'm also going to be working on my corset, working on my wig, and figuring out what else I need to work on, because these have to be painted. I'm going to paint them before I get the zippers put in. At some point, I'm going to cut them down, probably sooner so I don't waste paint. And yeah, and figure out what's next. At some point, what I think I'm going to try to do, once I get them cut down, I'll try to get a picture up on our Discord channel of what they look like on stilts. Hopefully they look good. I think they're going to. If you are not on our Discord channel, you can also check. I know it's already gone into the chat stream there. But there's an amazing community of creative, fun people there that do all sorts of interesting things, and we've kind of become a little family over there. So feel free to follow us or to join us on Discord as well, and follow the Plaster Dragon, and like our YouTube channel if you found me through YouTube. And I will see you next time. Thank you for joining me. Take care. Bye.